Welcome, fellow Lions fans. I hope everybody out there got what they wanted for Christmas. I got what I wanted: a Lions win, an Eagles loss, a healthy game, and I'm keeping my stocking up until February in case Santa wants to stuff a Lombardi trophy in there. We get to play the 49ers this week, who might be the only team more cursed than us this season from an injury standpoint. Remember, they were the NFC favorites entering the year. But then, the first-round wide receiver Ricky Pearsall got shot. Another wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk, held out all preseason, then tore his ACL. Deebo Samuel, another wide receiver, looks like he swallowed an entire turkey for Thanksgiving and then got his Ozempic prescription denied by his California HMO. Dre Greenlaw, a star linebacker, tore his Achilles last Super Bowl and only appeared in 2 games before being shut down for the year. The guy trying to replace Greenlaw, linebacker Devondre Campbell, quit halfway through a game. Another star linebacker, Fred Warner, has been playing with a fractured ankle since week 4. Brock Purdy came down with a shoulder injury suspiciously right after news broke that the Michigan Wolverines were going to pay Bryce Underwood, a high school quarterback, $3 million a year, which is 3 times what Purdy is making. I heard that Purdy wanted to start his shoulder rehab by signing his new contract. Their star running back, Christian McCaffrey, single-handedly destroyed fantasy teams across the country by missing half the year with his Achilles tendonitis, played only 4 games, and is now out for the year with a PCL. With all the PRP injections he's going to get, he's rumored to be hunting for a second home in Germany and is trying to hire Amon-Ra as his live-in translator. Trent Williams, their star left tackle, only played 10 games before an ankle injury ended his season. So yes, this holiday, be grateful we're not the 6-9 49ers. We're the 13-2 Detroit Lions in pole position for the number 1 seed. We just need those dastardly Packers to beat the Vikings on Sunday so we can clinch the number 1 seed on Monday Night Football. The Commanders and Jaden Daniels already helped us out a lot last week by beating the Eagles, but more importantly, it's another year we can laugh at the Bears for taking the wrong quarterback in the draft. If you guys are like me who just watched the Thursday night game involving Caleb Williams and the Bears, you know what I'm talking about. I'm Jimmy Liao, University of Michigan Medical School grad, board-certified in family medicine, lifelong Lions fan. This is the Detroit Lions Podcast Medical Edition. Today I'm going to review the victory over the Bears, list all the players who might return this season and when to expect them, and preview the upcoming 49ers game. Before I get to all that, though, I want to talk about this all-important number 1 seed. The major benefit is the bye. Now, there's arguably a risk of becoming rusty or soft with the week off, but that's a theoretical and uncertain risk. The benefits of the bye are not theoretical, they're guaranteed. Sometimes when I'm trying to make a close, difficult decision, I focus on the outcomes that are guaranteed. So what are the benefits? Number 1, you get a guaranteed win. I don't care if we're playing the worst team in the NFL at home, you can still lose, so getting a guaranteed win is huge. The Cowboys were a very good team last year and got blown out by the Packers. That loss may have carried over to this disaster of a season for them where everybody is going to end up getting fired. The Eagles got blown out by the Bucs last year. We had a coin flip game in the first round with the Rams, so guaranteed win is no small thing. Second big benefit of the bye is no chance of injury for that game. If we have another brutal game of injuries like we saw on Thanksgiving, or if we have a fluky injury to a key guy like Aiden Hutchinson or Goff, or Sewell, Decker, Amon-Ra, any key guy lost, that could kill our playoff chances. Remember Brock Purdy a couple years ago tore his UCL in his elbow in the NFC Championship game, completely tanking their chances in that game, ruining their Super Bowl hopes. You never know which game Goff is going to break a finger, or Sewell or Decker is going to get rolled up on, or Laporta is going to hyperextend his knee in a scary way like in Week 18 last year. Or maybe J-Mo tearing his ACL getting tripped on the sideline. Or Branch hyperextending his middle fingers after a bullshit ejection call. You just never know what random craziness a game can bring. The other really important benefit of the number 1 seed is It's the only seed that really matters, in my opinion. The difference between the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed is bigger than the difference between the number 2 and the number 7 seed. And it's because of that bye. Now, some people might say that home field advantage matters, so you want the higher seed, but I don't think that's that true anymore. Maybe 20 or 30 years ago, home field meant a lot, but in the past 15 years, it just doesn't seem to matter very much. Offenses have gotten so good at the silent count and using hand signals, and playing travel, hotels have become so efficient and standardized, I don't think it seems to affect how teams play anymore. There was that Lions Monday Night Football game a while back against the Bears, where the Bears got a whole ton of false starts. That was back in 2011. You don't really see that kind of thing happen anymore. Anecdotally, last year we dominated the Packers in Lambeau. Then they came and dominated us in Detroit. This year we again dominated the Packers in Lambeau, then had a much tighter game in Detroit. We had a tight game versus the Bears at home, then we dominated them in Chicago. This year we're 7-0 on the road and 6-2 at home. If home field really matters that much, I don't think you'd see such results, sometimes extreme results, going the opposite way. Last year, the Cowboys were 8-0 at home in the regular season, big favorites at home in the playoffs over the Packers, and got blown out. We went into Santa Clara and put up a huge lead on the 49ers in the championship game. Easily could have won that game. Back in the old days, Vegas used to give home teams 3 points. Now I believe it's down to around 1.5, and I think it should be closer to 0. Looking at the trends this year, road teams have won 47.5% of games. Against the spread, road teams are at 52.3% winning percentage. That suggests Vegas is still giving home teams too many points. All things being equal from a health standpoint, yeah, I'd rather be at home. But if I had a choice to be slightly healthier but have to go on the road, I'd take the road. The bottom line here is the number 1 seed is worth going all out for. The other seeds don't matter too much. I'd rather rest guys and be healthy as a number 7 seed than be a banged up number 2 seed. Now let's do the Bears game recap. Amazingly, this is the first game all year where I did not see any injuries. And looking at the injury report released today, Thursday, December the 26th, there were no big surprises, which confirms that there were no significant injuries during the game. So let's talk about all the positives we saw. Let's start with Christian Mahogany. Remember that he had mono diagnosed before training camp started, missed all of camp, and then missed the entire first half of the year being on NFI, non-football injury list. This was his first start. He played the entire game, and he looked good. He was filling in for Graham Glasgow at the left guard position. It's sort of surprising to see him be the primary offensive guard backup already in this rookie year after missing the entire first half of the season and being a 6th-round rookie. So great news going forward. He looked good during the game. Hopefully he can take a starting position at offensive guard next year. That would really help out our salary cap. We got Kevin Zeitler as an unrestricted free agent next year. We don't know if he's going to be back. Glasgow struggled a little bit this year. Maybe there's some kind of chronic or recurrent injury issue going on. Maybe that'll heal up in the offseason, but who knows? Glasgow's in the first year of a 3-year contract, so almost certainly Glasgow will be back. Next year, the ideal situation would be for Glasgow to be at the left guard and Christian Mahogany to take over that right guard position. Let's get now to the initial injury report on Thursday, today, December the 26th. It's one day later than normal because we have a Monday Night Football game. Khalif Raymond, FP full practice because he started his 21-day practice window today, which was great news. It was started immediately after his 4-week IR stint. That means medically he could be ready to play right away. That's because you can't start the 21-day practice window during that 4-week IR stint. You can only start it after the 4 weeks. He might not need the full window. Dan Campbell today did say he doesn't feel that confident about Raymond playing this week, so more likely we're going to see him next week against the Vikings or in the first game of the playoffs. But regardless, great news to see that his 21-day window opened. Terrion Arnold, NP, no practice with an illness. He played 98% of snaps last game against the Bears. No obvious issues. Presumably, he got an illness after the game. It's cold and flu season in America right now. High levels of this are seen throughout the country, so that could be what's going on. NFL players usually are able to recover from routine illnesses like a cold, flu, or gastroenteritis within a couple days, so hopefully we see an upgrade in his status over the next couple practice reports. Graham Glasgow, full practice with a knee. He missed last game with this injury. Good news that it's minor. Dan Campbell already mentioned this week that he's going to be back in the starting lineup against the 49ers. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, FP with a neck. This is his second week on the 21-day practice window. He started it last week. Remember, he was hurt November the 3rd, put on IR. His practice window opened December the 19th. He's currently at day 7 of his 21-day practice window. The 49ers game is going to be on day 11, so I'm not expecting him to play against the Niners. I would expect him more likely against the Vikings, which would be day 17 of his window, or the playoffs. David Montgomery, as expected, an NP with his knee. So let me get a little bit in depth into him, because my last podcast, I didn't have full information yet as it was a developing story. Initially, it was reported by Dan Campbell he was going to have surgery and be out for the season. Then after a couple more opinions by other doctors, it was decided that he was going to try to rehab and return this season. This means at least one doctor thought he needed surgery. Presumably it was the team orthopedist. That means it's not a straightforward grade 1 or 2 MCL sprain. Grade 1 or 2 is a partial tear of the MCL. Even a complete grade 3 tear can heal without surgery. Indications for MCL surgery would include an unstable complete tear. That's when the leg is not maintaining its natural position. There's a persistent valgus deformity to it, which would prevent the MCL from healing. Other possibilities are a distal tear of the MCL, which doesn't heal as well as a proximal tear, and avulsion of the MCL, where it rips off the bone or rips off a piece of the bone, a ligament entrapment of the MCL preventing it from healing, or a multi-ligament tear like we saw with Derek Barnes, who also had a PCL tear. Not for sure what's going on, but this is probably not a straightforward mild to moderate MCL. There's probably something else more complicated going on. With medicine, it's a gray area. It's ever evolving. Oftentimes, it's not for certain what is the best way to manage an injury. And as you can see, doctors can have different opinions. That doesn't mean one is right or one is wrong. There might just not be enough data yet for specific situations. And as I've mentioned many, many times before, sports medicine is something that's very difficult to do real good scientific studies on. Also, each decision in medicine has its pros and cons. There are pros and cons to having surgery, and there are pros and cons to not having surgery, which is conservative management. Each player makes the decision for himself. They might choose the different path, and there's no right or wrong answer here. So Demo has chosen to not have surgery, try to get it to heal on its own, try to rehab and come back this season, although there's going to be a chance he's going to need surgery down the road. We'll see about that. It's interesting that the Lions have had 3 guys with MCL surgeries already this year. Most MCLs don't need surgery. Connor Galvin, John Kominski, and Derek Barnes have had surgery. Maybe the team orthopedist leans more towards getting surgery. Maybe it's better for the player long term. Who knows? Each of those 3 guys may have had very different injuries as well, so can't really make any comments without any specific details. So that's the entire Lions practice report. Let's do their injured reserve list status update now. Now with Khalif Raymond returning. That means we've used 6 out of our 10 returns. Khalif, Broderick Martin, Emmanuel Mosley, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and Ifeatu Melifonwu twice. So we have 4 left. Those are likely going to go to, at this point, Anzalone, Rakestraw, Carlton Davis, and Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions, according to the rules, can use all 4 in the playoffs if they choose. During the regular season, they can only use 8 total, but that's not an issue as Davis and Hutchinson are not going to be ready until the late playoffs. Best case situation is if Anzalone and Rakestraw get their windows activated, hopefully in the regular season in the next week or 2, and then Davis and Hutchinson later on in the playoffs. Let's talk about Anzalone. Forearm fracture November the 17th, estimated to be a 6 to 8 week recovery. The Niners game is at the 6-week mark. So unfortunate that we're not going to see him for that. I was expecting the Vikings game, the final regular season game, to be the target, but that's not looking likely either. The playoffs start at the 8-week mark, which is only 16 days away now. His 21-day practice window is not open yet, which raises some eyebrows for me. It's a little bit concerning, not necessarily too concerning yet, but I do question what might be going on here with his window not open yet. It really should have opened at this point. Forearm fractures heal reliably. A setback is unlikely, but not impossible. Really would like to see Anzalone's window open, hopefully this week. But even if it does, it's looking like we won't see him until the playoffs. Ennis Rakestraw was eligible to return last week versus the Bears, but his 21-day practice window has not opened yet, so that suggests he's still at least 3 weeks away. Carlton Davis' estimated 6-week recovery would put him at the NFC Championship game, but Dan Campbell last week did say it doesn't look optimistic to get him back, so that's still up in the air. I don't take what coaches say at full face value, though. Things often can change. As we saw with Demo, Dan Campbell was saying he was going to get surgery and out for the year. That changed very quickly. Aiden Hutchinson, expecting him in very limited action in the Super Bowl. He's currently walking now without much of a limp, but he's got a long ways to go as far as rehabbing the strength, the burst, and stamina of his legs. I still think it's likely we see him in the Super Bowl, though, if we make it. Let's talk now about the 49ers injury report. Besides that huge list of star players I mentioned earlier in this episode, they have a very long list still. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. Their offensive line is up in the air at this point. Spencer Burford, their left tackle who's filling in for Trent Williams, got hurt with his calf, has an NP today, so he might now play against us. Aaron Banks, offensive guard starter, sprained his MCL last week. NP today makes it unlikely he'll play. So they could have a couple offensive linemen out for our game, in addition to Trent Williams already being out. Dre Greenlaw with his calf issue, NP today. Kyle Shanahan stated today that Greenlaw is going to be out for the rest of the year. Isaac Guerrero, their third-string running back, who's been filling in for McCaffrey, who's out, as well as Jordan Mason, who's on IR. He's got a foot and hamstring with an LP. He's been mainly their starter the past couple weeks or so. He's second on the team in rushing yards with 381 behind Jordan Mason. The bottom line with the Niners is they are banged up. They're not the same team we saw last year in the NFC Championship game. Their offensive line is hurting. Their defense has a bunch of injured players. We really need to go in there and take care of business on Monday night. Now let me finish up with the projected return dates for the currently injured Lions to see when they might be coming back. Graham Glasgow is returning this week. Khalif Raymond, with his 21-day practice window open, he'll return within 3 weeks, most likely week 18 or the playoffs. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, he's in the second week of his practice window. He should be back week 18 or the first round of the playoffs. Anzalone, who has not had his window open yet, projecting his return in about 3 weeks, hopefully the first round of the playoffs. David Montgomery, projecting his return in about 4 weeks, which would be the second round of the playoffs. Ennis Rakestraw, still probably at least 3 weeks away, so we're talking about halfway through the playoffs or late playoffs for him. Carlton Davis, hopefully we see him in the NFC Championship game, and Aiden Hutchinson, hopefully in the Super Bowl. All right, that's it for today. Enjoy the game Monday night. Enjoy it for anybody who's going to the game. I went to the game last year, the NFC Championship game. I stayed at one of the 2 hotels that was within a 10-minute walk of the stadium. That was great, especially for a night game, being able to just walk home. The stadium itself may be one of the least impressive stadiums I've been to. I might do a full stadium ranking recap in the offseason. The game itself was truly memorable. Going out to that huge first half lead, then almost pulling it out in the second half, almost making it to the Super Bowl in one of our greatest years ever. Even with the loss, a great experience, a great memory that I'll never forget, capping off one of the greatest Lions seasons in my lifetime. Hopefully this season is going to be even better. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.